during hayd, when woman she has a menstruation, normally the bleeding once it starts, it can be blackish, dark red, yellowish, greenish, whatever color it may be. And the sign of normally the stopping of menstruation blood bleeding is white discharge. Thick white discharge is normally the sign of the menstruation being stopped. Okay. Now, some fuqaha, they have whole subject on the colors, okay, of the bleeding, and what in some masail that would determine if that is menstruation or not. Fresh bleeding is treated differently than, because that bleeding which is menstruation bleeding usually is old blood, and it's not fresh blood, or it may be mixed with both. But we are not going to discuss that in any detail, but just to let you know, there are different, but in general, all of it is menstruation. Okay? Now, let's start madhab by madhab, one by one, what they say about menstruation. So up to now was introduction to the subject. When a woman, according to the Hanafi madhab, the minimum bleeding which can be considered hayd has to be 3 days, 3 nights. Anything less than that is not hayd. If a woman bleed her menstruation, meaning she had a period of tuhur, from last menstruation to this menstruation, there must be a period of tuhur. For example, there is a minimum time in the Hanafi madhab. There is a minimum time that you must bleed before it is considered to be hayd. So 3 days, 3 nights. If a woman start bleeding and it continued 3 days, 3 nights, and it hasn't stopped, then it is confirmed that it is hayd. Okay? And it may continue 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to maximum 10 days and 10 nights. So once she starts bleeding, any bleeding which stops before 3 days, 3 nights will not be categorized as menstruation. This is the most important thing you need to know for the Hanafi madhab, that any bleeding less than 3 days, 3 nights, or more than 10 days, 10 nights. If, let's say if someone bled 3, 4, let's say 2 days and a half, and they stopped. So that bleeding is considered as istihada. Hasn't reached the minimum amount for, and all madhaib are different, so it's good that you make notes. After 3 days, 3 nights has passed and the bleeding hasn't stopped, it doesn't have to continuously bleed. Everyone bleeds. Some people, they bleed heavily, some very slowly over long time. But if it has started and it continues after 3 days, 3 nights, then it is menstruation. Okay? And usually women, they stop 5 to 7 days. Normally, in average, women would stop 5 to 7 days. But if someone continues in the 8, 9, 10, so after they've reached 10 days, 10 nights, and the bleeding hasn't stopped, now the menstruation has stopped. The maximum period a menstruation can have is 10 days, 10 nights for the Hanafi madhab. Any bleeding after that, this is in tuhur now. This is istihada. She must pray and she must. After 10 days, 10 nights, she'll do ghusl. And then after that, she can start her praying and so on, fasting. Yeah? So we clear so far? So for the Hanafi madhab, minimum time for hayd, menstruation to be to take place, to be confirmed, is 3 days, 3 nights. Anything which stops before that was just istihada, was just additional bleeding. It cannot be categorized as hayd. Okay? And anything then from there on until 10 days and 10 nights. This is all. Not many women will bleed past that, but sometimes they might do. And if they did, after 10 days and 10 nights, their menstruation would have finished. You understand? Yeah? Good. So what's below 3 days, 3 nights, and what's above 10 days and 10 nights is istihada. That's additional bleeding. That does not categorize as menstruation. She'll do ghusl and everything is allowed for her after that, like in clean period. From praying, fasting, i'tikaf, tawaf, and relationship with husband and so on, whatever, reading of Quran and so on. Everything is allowed as normal. What is their proof? Okay, there are, when it comes to dalail, the reason all madhahib, they have different views, because there is no strong dalil which cannot be interpreted in other way. There are some dalail you cannot argue with. So mostly the things we discuss are those things which they have different views, meaning the dalail have flexibility in understanding in it. For example, there are not many hadith on the subject. The hadith, the Hanafis, they take this hadith in Tabrani and Daraqutni, and the hadith is from Abi Umama, and the hadith of Wathilah bin al-Asqa', okay, from Daraqutni, and hadith of many others companions as well. But muhaddithin have mentioned weakness in these hadith. Okay, but because the Hanafis, they don't have anything sahih to counter that, strong enough to to reject that, the Hanafis, they take these hadith sufficient to make their view on. There are plenty of hadith, but none of them reach a stage where the ummah would unite to say this is it. They have weakness in it, but that's all they have. Okay, the Hanafis, they base it on that view, on these hadith, that the minimum time for a hayd is 3 days, 3 nights, and maximum is 10 days, 10 nights. That's the end of the Hanafi view.